Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Wheel podcast. Today, Sean and I are sitting down and talking about the world of overlanding. We just recently interviewed Stephanie from Winnebago, and we were talking about the brand new ARCA. I'm getting ready to leave for an Overland West Expo show where I'll be helping out at the Winnebago booth and giving tours. And Sean and I were just talking. And we said, you know what? Let's do an entire episode kind of focused on what overlanding is and why is it blowing up the way it is. And right before we started to record, I said to Sean, I said, you know, Sean, I don't think I have a real good definition of what overlanding is. And sure enough, Sean was able to find a definition.
Yeah, so the definition is kind of blurry, and we'll go over the reasons why. But a good working definition, which was originally put out by Overland Journal, and I don't know when that was, but it's vehicle-based adventure travel, emphasizing exploration, self-sufficiency, and the experience of the journey itself. Although a pretty broad definition, it's gotten even broader. And I guess that's because mostly social media made it popular as overlanding popularity increased. And we'll throw out some numbers a little later in this episode. Outdoor recreation itself increased during COVID, and adventure travel, quote unquote, adventure travel became a very big branding term. And so overlanding was thrown into that. So now it covers everything. The term overlanding covers everything from serious expeditions to weekend camping to gear marketing to influencer culture and to off-road tourism. So there's a lot that falls into what the broader term of overlanding, but the definition is a little more serious, I guess, but still a little vague.
Yeah, I like, that very first definition that you said, Sean, because when I picture of overlanding and these people that I talk to at the expos and stuff, I picture them like all saddled up. They got their gear, and the journey is their trip. Like they're yes, they are trying to go somewhere, but the journey and trying to, I'm going to put in quotes, survive this obstacle of an off-road trail is really the reason why they're doing it, right? They want to see if they have enough recovery gear and tools and everything, and can their vehicles kind of make it. They I was going to say they thrive in misery, but that's not a polite way to say it. But they almost hope that something goes wrong so that they can try to fix it out in the field.
Yeah, they want to test themselves, I guess.
Yeah.
When I thought of overlanding, I always picture like the earth roamers
Hmm.
and things like that, out in the desert, driving through the desert, but it's bigger than that now.
Yeah, I know overlanding's really being taken over by like the Jeeps and the Toyota Tacomas, the small pickup trucks, and obviously, like you just mentioned, the Earth Roamers. And then, van life has really stepped into the overlanding world as well, with the Sprinter vans, especially that 4x4 system, the all wheel drive Sprinters and things like that. It is expanding, and I'll explain, or I'll blame the expansion on social media. But I think manufacturers take a little bit of this blame too. They see the growth that is happening with Overland. I'm going to blame the Overland Expos themselves too. The manufacturers see this growth. Sean, we had a number that it went from overlanding itself grew from 8 million to 12 million. So that's a 50% increase in the overlanding industry. And, manufacturers take a look at that and be like, oh, we should be, maybe marketing some of our RVs more into that overlanding segment because there's money to be made over there for sure. There's a lot of money. You got some really good numbers to share with the people, Sean, about how much money they dump into the vehicles and their overlanding gear, like after they make a purchase, even. So, the manufacturers are now building like overlanding vehicles for that market, even traditional RV manufacturers. And then I said I blame the Overland Expo as well because Overland Expo recently is blurring the lines between their Overland Expo and kind of introducing more of an RV feel. I feel this, now this is opinion. This is not based too much. In fact, other than what I see happening at the shows, I am seeing more and more RV related products at the Overland shows. I'm seeing more RV manufacturers like Thor. I saw Thor over at Overland East last year. And I feel like the overland market itself is kind of blurring that line of, all right, let's expand our market as well. If RVs are going to bleed into us, we might as well bleed into them too and expand our market as well.
Yeah, and
So,
in terms of manufacturers, I think two vehicles I can think of that have come out in the last decade that have been designed sort of for overland travel and for an overland travel, I mean the traditional overland travel type of situation, and are outfitted. Sometimes you can buy them with skid plates, off-road
mm,
tires, locking differentials, roof racks, things like that. Two that I think that come top to mind for me are the Jeep Gladiator and the Ford Bronco.
yeah.
And the relaunch of the Ford Bronco, those are
Yep.
both, I think, tied to that as well. Not just vans and campers, but traditional off-road vehicles as well.
Yeah. And they have a big presence at the Overland Expos. They do like drive and ride events. They'll build a small obstacle course and you can take a Bronco out, or Ford will have somebody drive you in a Ford Bronco around an obstacle course and show you what it can do just stock. They tell you, then you can put your rooftop tent and you can carry your gear in your back. So they're doing pretty big demonstrations. Same thing with Jeep and same thing with Ram. They're doing obstacle courses and they want you to experience their off road capability from the factory and sway you into purchasing one of their large SUVs to go overlanding in. Because like overlanding isn't per se like rock crawling or anything like that. It's just getting to those remote locations, being self-reliant. It's vehicle-based travel. It's not like, and it's not just for one type of person either. I feel like the overlanding community is pretty open to a wide variety. I see a lot of solo travelers. I see a lot of couples. I see families. Like it's pretty diverse, I would say. It's a wider range of ages than, say, typical RVing. Although I think even RVing is coming down in age as well. Or Sean, we're just getting older, and it seems like people are getting younger in RVing. I guess that's always possible too.
Would you say though, Kenny, like there's subsets of RV? I mean, of overlanding, I think about you, like to go out and do trails and stuff in your Jeep. Maybe that's like a subset of overland travel.
Yeah, you know what? I have a hard time describing the way I camp, and I'm gonna put camp in quotes. I use my Class A motorhome to go off grid and camp, and I use it as a base camp, and then I use my Jeep to explore areas and then come back. So I don't think I fall into the category of an overlander. To be honest, I don't think I really fall into the category of a camper because I think of somebody who's camping as being in a tent on the ground. I still categorize myself as an RVer. And that might just be that I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm strict and I put myself in that type of box where I'm sure other people looking at it from the outside say, well, you take your Vista down this dirt trail and you park it somewhere and then you explore for the weekend in your Jeep and then you come back in your Vista. That's overlanding or at least camping. And I'm sure overlanding itself absolutely has these little niches. I mean, some people do it on bikes. There's people that travel on their dirt bikes with saddle bags and set up tents and camp. So, yeah, 100%. There are so many little niche areas. You got the people in classic Jeeps, you got people in modern vehicles, you got people in the motorcycles, you got people in the tricked out vans, and then you got earth roamers where people are spending $1 million on their vehicle. Yeah, I think there's a huge variety of different types of overlanders for sure.
So I guess we can talk a little bit about the growth. One thing that I found, so you saw, I think you already talked about it, that it jumped from 8 million to 12 million people in 1 year, which is a pretty big jump
It's
for
huge.
anything really.
Yeah.
And then I also found that this website, Off-Roadium did a study and they looked at Google Trends over from 2016 to 2023, and they looked up the term overlanding, and it increased by 2,000% in searches between 2016 and 2023, which to me is that's up huge as well.
Yeah. And I see it at the show, Sean. Every time I think a year is busy in Overland, it's trumped by the next year. Like it just gets busier and busier. And while we're traveling out on the road, Sean, we just see more and more what I would call overlanding vehicles. I don't know if they're actually overlanding. You always spot them because they got the max tracks on the side of their rack, or they got a roof rack up there. Sometimes they have a tent. Sometimes they have extra fuel cans. Like I just see this. And maybe it's the area that I live in. Arizona's my home base, and we are kind of a destination area for that type of travelers. But man, I just see it more and more every I want to say every day. It seems like I'm seeing more out there.
Yeah, I saw a comparison. For those of us that are older, you might get the first one, but they compare the trend of overlanding to different things that have occurred over time. And they say overlanding today is probably where mountain biking was in the 90s, craft beer in the early 2000s, and van life around 2018, which everybody remembers van life 2018. That was almost every hashtag on Instagram had a van life thing in
Yeah.
it.
That's a great comparison though of the craft beer too and the blow up of microbreweries. Right? I mean
Right.
that
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that just blew up. I don't think I heard the term overlanding probably until around 2018. If somebody would have described overlanding to me in 2017, I would have just said, "Oh, you mean camping?" Like, it's to me, I think this was always just called camping, and now it's overlanding, and because it's overlanding, you can charge a whole lot of money for it, and, you know, Sean saw some numbers about, what people spend not just on the vehicle, but then how much money they spend in aftermarket supplies and modifications to their vehicles. Sean, what did you say that number was? Around 20,000?
Yeah, so 95% of people that overland perform some modifications to their vehicles, and 1 in 4 spend more than $20,000 on mods after on top of the vehicle.
These numbers don't surprise me at all. Again, I'm gonna go back to like my experience with working the shows and talking with consumers and giving them tours of RVs. Before they even make the purchase, they're already telling me the list of things that they want to upgrade. And most of the time it's within the $50,000 range. And they're just like, that's just the price of overlanding. That's just what I need to spend to go to the places that I want to go to. I'm like, that's a lot of money on top of the vehicle that you're already purchasing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to people that have like over $100,000 into their Jeep.
Wow.
It's insane. Yeah, it's really insane to me. To me, it's insane. I shouldn't really say that because everybody's got their thing and everybody likes their thing. You are not insane. You're just passionate about what you're doing. That just shows though the amount of revenue that is in this overlanding side of things and why it would be so advantageous for these manufacturers to get into that market. And because of social media, right? We mentioned social media too, and the branding, like adventure branding. People want that. People want to be adventurous. Even I know, Sean, I just know 50% of these Jeeps that I'm seeing on the road probably don't even go off road. I'm sure they're just going to the movie theater, but it looks like it could really do some serious off-roading. I know when Sabrina was looking around for a new vehicle, she thought about getting a Jeep. And she even told me, she's like, I would want big tires and I want to lift. She's like, I want it to look like it could do some serious off-roading, but I have zero interest in ever taking it off-road. She just wants the look. She just likes that look. And I think that kind of says it right there, right? It's an attractive brand. It's an attractive lifestyle. Even if you don't really want to do it, you still want to be one of the cool kids that are doing it.
Yeah, it's almost like for those of us RVers, it's almost like a super or souped up boondocking, right?
Mhm.
like way out there boondocking.
Way out there. Yep. To the point that, you might not run into somebody else. And then, for these guys too that and girls that wanna go out that far, they wanna make sure that their equipment can get them back, right? They don't wanna go out there, get stuck, and now they're trapped and they're using their Garmin in reach to call for help. They wanna make sure that they have all the equipment needed, whether that be recovery gear, their tools, spare part, like everything. So I think that's a lot of it too. And I think the reason for some of this growth is definitely social media. Like you go on social media, there are so many YouTube channels now. I'm trying to remember one that I watched that I like a lot. He's in a Jeep and I can't remember. Oh well. There's several channels like that, Sean, that I'm thinking of that are of very high quality videography, almost to the point that they could probably be on TV and have like commercials. Like it wouldn't surprise me that there's so many talented people with camera. I think of Peter Holcomb. Like Peter's a friend of ours, and his documentary style could easily turn into a professional television show. And he's an overlander, and I think that becomes so attractive to other people when they see this well polished, finished product of a story and, the imagery and the storytelling of it and the adventure of it. I think that really social media just really gets people attracted to that brand, to that market. You go to Instagram and you're seeing rooftop tents on top of a Jeep with a nice sunset. And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to enjoy a nice sunset out in the middle of nowhere with just your loved ones or friends, family, or anything like that? People crave, I think, that maybe not simplicity, but that freedom. I think overlanding is selling, in a sense, that sense of freedom to travel and be on your own and do what you want to do, type of thing.
Yeah, I think it was a perfect storm too. As we started seeing more overlanding stuff on social media, then we hit the pandemic and people
Hmm.
couldn't really do what they wanted to, and they just wanted to get away where they could, go out and enjoy life a little bit instead of being cooped up in their New York City apartment or, their apartment in the city. So this was a great way to do that. And I think it was just a perfect storm for it to grow so fast.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, Sean, too, it's more than just that long journey trip, right? People can do it for a weekend. So maybe they're 9 to 5, Monday through Friday in an office, and every Friday they get done work and they're able to like just break free and get away from everybody just for the weekend and come back, and they're back at work on that Monday again. I think the Overland brand and marketing have really done a good job of making it available to everybody, that you don't have to be in Australia in the bush somewhere. You could be just an hour from your house and still overland. You can still explore and still travel in your $200,000 to $1 million rig. And, you had mentioned the pandemic, Sean. I think that's where social media played a part again. People were cooped up at home and they're watching YouTube and they're seeing these YouTube channels and enjoying that outdoor life. And I think that kind of just perfect storm. Is that what you said? I think that's
Yeah.
just that
Yeah.
perfect storm of everything coming together and really just creating this boom of overlanding. And I think overlanding does attract a younger audience because you can start overlanding for, I mean, really almost nothing. Like you could buy a beater car, throw a tent on top of it, and go overlanding. Like you don't have to spend 1 million. You don't have to spend 200,000. You could spend like 5 grand on a vehicle and put a tent on it. And now you're overlanding. It's got a pretty low point, and that's probably why it's growing so much too. They're and talking about those niches again. I mean, you can get in for 5 grand, you can get in for 1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty wide variety. Whereas RVing, what's the cheapest you could really get into RVing? If you went with a travel trailer, you're still gonna need a truck to tow it. So I mean, your bottom floor on an RV with a vehicle, maybe 20 grand if you're kind of savvy with your purchase, but just a
Yeah. I think
few thousand for overland.
the other thing that makes overlanding, I think, so popular in America is that we have so much public land here, like national forests, BLM
Mm.
land, state parks, national parks, so much public land that people can go out and get lost in, get away from people. I think we have just an abundance of that, particularly out west, where you can just go and not see anybody for days, but still stay in the United States.
Yeah, and apps like iOverlander that find free dispersed camping anywhere you're in. That's the app that I use anyway, iOverlander. It's just easy to use, and I'm able to travel all the way across the country with never having to stop at a campground while I'm on the move. I just stay at dispersed camping from location to location. I think that makes it kind of easy, again, for that lower income or lower budget. You buy again, you buy your vehicle for 5 grand, you throw a tent on it, and now you're camping for free out in the woods. You're not even paying for the campground. And that younger crowd too, they're not in the office as much as we are. I think they're more tech savvy. So they're mobile, they're working from anywhere. They don't have to report into an office and go in the traffic every day and stuff like that. I think they do a better job of finding work from home, I guess you could say. And I also think the younger generation is probably a little bit more focused on experiences, or at least that's what social media makes it seem to be anyway. I think they care more about the restaurant experience, the outdoor experience, more so than we did growing up anyway. I think for us, it was all about what job are you going to get? You got to get married. You got to buy a house. I think these younger kids are, I don't want to use the word hippie, but that's what they seem like to me. And again, that might just be me getting older. And I hear this question asked, is overlanding replacing traditional RVing for younger travelers? And I don't think that's the case at all. I just think that younger travelers are getting into overlanding. I don't think those younger travelers would have ever got into RVing. If anything, those younger travelers that are getting to or are overlanding when they're young are probably going to transition to RVing when they get older, as their family grows and things change within their lives. This might be way, way older, but yeah, I don't think overlanding is taking anything away from RVing.
Yeah, I think it's two different cultures,
Too different. Yeah.
overlanding and RVing, and what appeals to overlanders doesn't necessarily appeal to RVers. They're completely different, I think. And like even for some people, they're just intimidated by driving a big class A or
Hmm.
hauling a big fifth wheel trailer. And in overlanding, the vehicles are typically much smaller and maybe they're more comfortable and confident in navigating using one of those rather than some big RV.
Yeah. And they enjoy that faster lifestyle. I would say like a quicker turnaround. Again, they're usually working remote, so they don't necessarily have to be anywhere. They don't really have the rigid schedules as maybe a lot of the older RVers would. They're not relying on reservations to stay anywhere, so they don't really technically need to be anywhere. So their ability to like pivot and change their plans quickly is easy for them. So people can call them up and say, "Hey, you're going to be here, whatever it may be." And we can do that too as RVers to a point, but not like these guys can when they're in such small vehicles and they can find a parking space sometimes to stop for the night. Like they are very, very loose schedules from my experience anyway when talking to them. And as much as I try to be the same way, I am limited to where I can stay. I'm still in a 30-foot class A motorhome towing my Jeep. So I try to stop anywhere, but I can't always fit type of thing.
Yeah, and you still have most of the comforts of home in your RV.
Yeah, it's funny, Sean. The clientele or the consumer for the overlanding industry, you get such a big variety. Sometimes I'll give people a tour of a van And some of them will be like, "Man, it's great that you guys got a bathroom in here." And others look at it and be like, "I'll never use this bathroom. I wish you guys didn't put a bathroom in here. This is just wasted space. I don't need a bathroom. I don't need to shower." I mean, the clientele or the consumer is just, I mean, so vast, so difficult, really, to figure out what's going to please everybody. I mean, there's no such thing, right? You can't please everybody, type of thing, but it is vastly different from person to person.
Also, I guess nowadays, at least in recent months, the overlanding probably uses a lot less fuel than an
Mm.
RVer would use to
Yeah.
go out and get away and travel
Yeah. Even a modern day Jeep now gets over 20 miles per gallon. Yeah. Same with the
compared to 8.
Broncos. Yeah. Yeah. Subaru's very popular for overlanding vehicles. They get decent gas. They don't get great gas mileage, but again, they're in the 20s and still all-wheel drive compared
And
to,
Toyotas, I mean, they're known
oh,
for
yeah.
lasting a long time too.
Yep.
So,
Easy
you
repairs.
can have an old Toyota and still get out there and enjoy it.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, Sean. But yeah, they're not spending the same in fuel costs that we're spending. Even though
Yeah.
they're probably doing the same amount of miles, they're just not,
Yeah.
it's just not costing them as much. Even the travel trailers that they tow are usually a fraction of the size of an RV. It's bumper pull. It's very rarely a fifth wheel. It was Taxa that we had on the show
Yeah.
couple years ago. They were super lightweight, right? Under 2,000 pounds, to around 2 to 3,000 pounds. So, yeah, even if you're in a truck towing an overlanding vehicle, they're half the weight of a standard RV trailer would be. So, yeah, much, much better on fuel for sure.
I think they also, Kenny, have a definite tight-knit, I would say, community. They have a big community, and I think everybody is fairly friendly and sharing knowledge all the time, at least seeing what I see online. It seems like a very, very good, friendly community. Maybe
Yeah,
that helps too.
I think that helps for sure. It is a very friendly community. They are very welcoming. I think about like when I go to the overland shows, I am invited to so many campfire events. Like, they're just like, "Hey, we're going to have a campfire tonight. Why don't you stop by our rig?" And I just met these people that day. But I will say our Vers can be just as friendly too. But I agree the overlanding community is very involved. It could just be a younger generational thing, Sean, but they're very involved online, helping each other as well. Very active and in person too. Like I'm in a lot of overlanding and off-roading groups, and I see this way more than I thought I ever would, Sean, where somebody will post on a Facebook page and say, "Hey, I'm stuck. I'm in so and so location, this town. Here's my pin location. If anybody could come by and help me, I'd appreciate it." I have never seen any of those messages ever be ignored. Somebody always goes out to those people and pulls them out. Like no tow, no payment required, no anything. And to be honest, I always look to see if somebody is in my area because I would love to go out and help somebody again as not an overlander, but as an off-road enthusiast, I have all this gear. I want to use it. So if I could go out and help somebody and hook up my kinetic rope and yank somebody out of a mud hole or something like that, I'd love to go and save the day.
Mm.
And I feel like that is the normal mentality of all these men and women is that they do want to help and they want to make sure everybody's having a good time and enjoying the entire experience.
Yeah, I think maybe it's an outdoors thing
Mm,
because, like, Julie is a big hiker and she runs into through hikers on the Appalachian Trail, and they will stop and talk, and, other hikers will leave gear behind that they don't need
mm.
anymore for other people to take.
Yeah,
And then you have the overlanding community, and then RVers, they're typically helpful to other RVers,
yeah.
very nice people. I think it has something to do with the outdoors.
It has to. We could probably do a study and an episode on that alone, Sean. Why are people that are outdoor enthusiasts so nice?
Because you and I know you can walk down the street in New York City or in Philadelphia, and you could be laying on the sidewalk dead and people will just step over you.
They'll think it's a trap.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We don't make eye contact walking
Yeah.
in those cities like that. I mean, I grew up in Philly. it's so rare to say hello to somebody as you're walking past each other. You just don't do it. You just mind your own business is really the mantra when you're living in for me anyway, that was my experience living in Philly. It was like, just mind your own business.
Where
And
in the
don't
outdoors community, it's not like that at all.
It's the opposite. It's like, be as nosy as possible. Let's watch this person back in. Let's all stand outside and watch them, and we'll clap if they get it. Yeah.
So I don't think it necessarily is more connected than RVing, or I don't think it's more connected than any other outdoor. Like my son's a motorcycle rider, and they
Mhm.
stop and help each other whenever somebody's broke down, or whatever. So I think it's an outdoor, like, adventure kind of thing where people kind of stick together. So I don't think it's any more so in overlanding than it is in RVing. It's just a different group and a different community.
Yeah. I mean, I see bikes all the time waving to each other. Jeep's got the Jeep wave. They wave to one another. I'll even wave to, like, Broncos and other overlandish vehicles if I see one, if I'm out of my Jeep. Same thing on the trails when we're passing each other on the trails. It doesn't matter what you own. You always stop and wave to the person as you're going by them. Everybody, yeah, everybody is friendly. Everybody is going out of their way to be friendly too. Like, it's not just, I don't think anybody feels obligated to be friendly. They want to be helpful. They want to be friendly.
So now I guess we can talk about, we've talked a lot about social media and social media's influence on the growth of overlanding. What it doesn't show is some of the tough times that go on with overlanding, just like RV social media doesn't show all the tough times that go on with RVing. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the elements, right? Dirt, mud, rain, heat, wind, every miserable condition you're going to go through at least once.
I always like to say, Sean, that a bad day of RVing, and I think this is probably true about overlanding, jeeping, anything, being out on the trail. A bad day of RVing, trail riding, hiking, biking is still better than most normal days. you know? So maybe that's why some of that stuff doesn't really make it online as much. Maybe it's a little bit of a couple things, I guess. Some people don't want to discourage other people from trying the lifestyle because they do enjoy it so much. Of course, we do have some channels that kind of thrive around mayhem, though, and issues. But I would say it's not a lot. I really feel like in the RVing world, anyway, it is, I want to say 80-20, 80% positive, 20% negative. It is very rare for me to see people posting bad days. It's not that it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen as much as the people posting, "Oh, we checked out. Look at this. What did we find? Look, great day at, whatever it may be." Yeah, I think the social media versus the reality, I don't know if it's really that far off, because I really do believe that the people that are doing it and are sharing on social media are really enjoying it. I don't think they're putting on a show. Like, I don't think anybody's going out. Well, maybe there are some people, but I was like, I don't think anybody's going into their backyard pretending to be out in the middle of nowhere, and then at the end of the day, going back into their home and not actually sleeping out in that out in that environment. They're out there because they enjoy it and they want to share that enjoyment.
But they may wait hours and shoot that scene
Oh yeah.
many, many times
Oh
in
yeah.
order to get just the perfect one to post.
Yes, that for sure is
Yeah.
happening. Yeah, I've talked to social media people that wait hours just for a single photo. Just the
Yeah.
photo alone, it's got to be just right, and then it's doctored. They do some
Yeah.
nice work on the after the post scene as well. So, like I said, I honestly think there's more people pumping it up, I guess, than not.
Yeah, and I think, like we've said, you can get into it really cheap, but once you get the bug of modifications, you can spend quite a bit of money on modifications and improving your setup over time. So you really have to be conscious of that going in to
Mhm.
control your habits so you don't exceed your your bank account, I guess.
The good thing about that is, like, if especially for those people that are being a little bit more budget conscious, when they are going into a vehicle that's a little cheaper and their equipment's a little cheaper, they can upgrade at their own pace and at their own time. So as long as they're being careful about it, they should be able to enjoy this lifestyle on a budget, whatever suits them. Now, of course, like we said, I talk to people that put $100,000 into their Jeeps, and the average 95% of people do make mods. A lot of them are in the $20,000 range. I feel like that's probably more common than the people just spending a few bucks here and there on their rigs. But I do believe it's something for everybody.
Yeah, as we've been talking, I've been thinking about it, and I think I've put over 20,000 into my RV and upgrades.
I know
Easy.
I have. Yeah, I easily
Yeah.
have. Between my solar
So
and
it's the same, it's just different stuff.
just different stuff. Yeah, easily I've spent $20,000 in modifications on my RV. Yeah. But over a 9-year period, again, like,
Right,
we didn't
exactly, yeah.
have to do it all at one time. We could take our time, make sure that we had the money for it, that type of thing. Easily, RVers are spending just as much in
Yeah.
modifications, just on maybe different things.
Yep, exactly. I would say the same thing about comfort too. Like, sure, they're smaller vehicles and they might not have bathrooms in their rooftop tents or in their little trailers that they're pulling or in their Jeep or their Bronco. But as RVers, we face the same challenges related to small living spaces, limited storage, internet
Mhm.
challenges, trying to get through weather, just on a, I think, on a smaller scale.
Yeah, it's funny, Sean. I would say that there are a lot of similarities. There are probably more similarities than an overlander would like to admit. I think we as RVers would be quicker to point out similarities rather than an overlander. I think, again, they go back to being like the cool kids, and I don't think they would want to say, "Oh, we're." I think they would be quicker to say we're nothing like RVing or you guys. We're hardcore about it. I think that kind of like leads us into like is overlanding better than traditional RVing? And I hate to say anything is ever better than anything else. Everything's got its pros and cons, and everything's a little different. Everybody's got their own take. So I personally would not say that overlanding is better than traditional RVing. You're exploring a little different, but you know what? Like we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of overlay, a lot of both require planning, both of them require downsizing, both of them require being flexible on the go. Both like the aspects of what they're doing for different reasons. You can talk to 10 RVers, and I bet you get 10 different reasons of why they RV. And the same thing with overland. You would get 10, ask 10 people, you get 10 different answers of why they overland, how they got into it, and all that. So to say one is better than the other, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that.
No, I wouldn't either. Yeah. I feel like you, with your Jeep and the stuff that you do in your Jeep, you are kind of riding a middle line between overlanding and RVing, according to the definitions. Do you see a lot more people doing that?
I wouldn't say a lot, but I would say many. I don't know what the difference is, but I do run into several people like myself that own an RV, that tow a Jeep, and do what I do as far as, use the RV as their base camp and then use the Jeep as the exploration type of vehicle, like almost like yeah. So I do run into a lot of that. I'll have to start paying attention more to it. I would say I still feel as if, though, I run into more of, the traditional RVer and more of the traditional overlander. I feel like the people that are like kind of in between, like I am, there's a lot of us, but we're not the norm or the mainstream, I guess. I feel like the people that really like overlanding want to do that as much as possible. And they would feel as if an RV, like a traditional RV, would slow them down from that, and vice versa. I think the people that really enjoy the RVing and the campgrounds and the social events and the amenities of a campground, they don't want to give that up. They want to be able to do that as much as possible. So I think there are us in the middle that enjoy both of those things and enjoy them in small doses of each, and maybe that'll continue to grow. But yeah, I'm gonna start polling people actually.
I think about that Fantasy RV Tours started
Hmm.
that Jeep excursion trip a couple of years ago in Utah,
Yeah, great turnout
and
for it.
yeah, pretty popular, I think. And so maybe things like that develop a sort of middle of the road person, sort of a RVer slash overlander. It's kind of in between RVing and overlanding.
Yeah, I want to say the first year that they had it, they had like 30, 40 people sign up for the first one. So they had to create a second event for it. But I will also say that the majority of those people, even though they all own Jeeps, for the most part, it was their first time taking their Jeep off road on a trail.
Uh,
So I think it was kind of like a nice beginning step. It was great because we had a guide tour. We had the tour guide. We had I'm not, I'm saying experts. We had expert wheelers and off-roaders to help guide us of how to do, where you place your tire. So it was a great learning experience. But I do believe that it was like more of a first timer thing and not something that those RVers did outside of that group.
okay.
But it does show just how much interest there is.
Yeah. And then I think about people like Peter Holcomb, who's in his Winnebago Revel. But before that, he didn't have a Revel, but he was still doing the overlanding type travel, but in a Class C, right? It was a class. He had like a Navion, or what did he have?
Um, I Peter had a car. He was doing car camping for a little bit, and he had a travel trailer for a little bit, but he towed that with his Revel. He's on his second
Oh,
Revel.
okay.
I don't know
Maybe
if
he was in a Revel the whole time I've known him.
yeah, I think he's on his I'm pretty sure he's on his second Revel. I'm gonna see him next week. I'll have to ask him if he's ever been in a Class C because, Sean, that sounds vaguely familiar, but it would have had to been four-wheel drive because he wouldn't have been able to get to the places that he likes to go for his kayaking and things like that. So if he did, it might have been like, not a custom build, but maybe a modified. I'll have to ask him. Yeah, I'll have to
But I
ask
see
him.
him as sort of a crossover RVer slash overlander too. And I mean, if you look at his YouTube channel, he's doing some serious overland travel, but he's also doing, what I would consider more RV-ish travel at times too.
Yeah, yeah, I think he enjoys both worlds as well. Yeah, for sure.
And our friends John and Nadia, they were
Definitely.
another crossover couple that spent very little time in campgrounds in their Class C, but spent a lot of time out in the wilderness, I would say.
Yeah, they're a great example actually of people that kind of crossed over because they're kind of in the same boat that I am in, that their RV was only two-wheel drive also. And even though they enjoy going off-road, just like I enjoy going off-road, we were both limited by the capability of our RVs in a sense. But yeah, I wish they were still on the road because I used to like meeting up with them. John was always very, very adventurous, and he would always get us to go places that we would have never gone on our own for fear of getting stuck or whatnot. And he had me doing some crazy stuff in my Vista. I've had it on three wheels, which I know is not good for it. It's a heavy vehicle to be just on three.
Well, I think that about wraps up the episode, Kenny. We want to ask the listeners a few questions. If you could respond with a comment on wherever you're listening to us at. If you've ever tried overlanding, or would you trade full hookups for trip of no hookups? And do you think it's overlanding's helping or hurting the RV culture? And lastly, what is the remotest place you've ever camped? You'll be surprised if you think back to the remotest place you ever camped. I know when I thought about this, I realized we've camped in some pretty remote places. So, yeah, so that's the episode. We want to thank everybody for listening, and we want you to stay tuned for future episodes. We got a lot of guests coming up, so we're glad you keep listening so we can keep getting these great guests. And until we talk to you next time, safe travels, everybody.